Something magical happens when we're in the natural world, doesn't it? We experience awe and wonder, inspiration, comfort, and peace. Is it any wonder that so many of us say that we love nature? But despite this love affair we have with her, the natural world is in really rough shape, primarily due to our own human actions. Over the last 30 years, over 1 billion acres of forest have been lost to deforestation. Species are going extinct, hundreds or even thousands times their natural rates. And our planet is warming at dangerous levels, causing catastrophic harm for humans and non-humans alike. When we say we love nature, do we really mean it? Are we considering her needs? Or does nature exist simply to serve us, to provide us lumber and mineral and fuel and delightful experiences? The Mayo Clinic says that one of the key symptoms of narcissism is the unwillingness to consider the needs of others. Are we nature narcissists? Some years ago, my husband and I bought a property in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. And we built a small eco-house there, surrounded by majestic oaks, brightly colored maples, and lovely pines, with a glorious view of the soft, gentle peaks of the local mountains. It was breathtaking. Except, for me, there was something missing. There was no permanent body of water on the property. The only water was in a raggedy little pond that only had water a few months out of the year. The rest of the year, it was all dried up with mud, sticks, dead leaves covering it. I wanted more. So my husband and I did some research and found a company that would seal the pond with concrete to keep it from seeping into the ground. We also dig trenches so that more water could be diverted into the pond. Soon my pond would have water year-round. Well, as we were about to start construction, I happened to go to a lecture on local watershed protection. After all, I was a committed environmentalist. I wanted to do my part. Midway through the lecture, the instructor started talking about the ecological significance of what he called ephemeral vernal ponds. My ears perked up. These temporary ponds, he said, were an essential habitat for all manner of aquatic species, amphibians, reptiles, insects, and more. He also said that the lack of permanent water in the ponds actually allows frogs and salamanders to lay their eggs there without fear of permanent predators. He went on to say that these ephemeral vernal ponds, these temporary ponds, were diminishing due to development, and it was causing a real problem for aquatic species in our area. Wow. Because of my own desires for a better experience, I was about to wipe out an essential part of the ecosystem. I wasn't thinking at all about the creatures who'd lived there for hundreds of years. I was only thinking about what I wanted. Despite my considering myself an environmentalist, I was actually a nature narcissist. Well, my husband and I canceled the sealing contract and the plans to dig those trenches. And I determined that I would somehow make peace with this ugly little pond. So I dragged an Adirondack chair down there and began to sit with her regularly. And something magical happened. In summer, when the pond almost completely dried up, there were still puddles that gave yellow cuckoos, bright blue indigo buntings, and brilliant red tanagers a much-needed drink. In winter, I watched this frozen, muddy hole and wondered what eggs were gestating there, safe from predators. And in spring, when water again began to fill the pond, I noticed a huge slimy egg mass across the surface. And a few days later, I was delighted to see hundreds of little tadpoles darting about in search of food. The trilling sound of the tree frogs filled the air. White-tailed dragonflies and water striders skittered across the surface. This raggedy little pond was a glorious and nurturing home for hundreds of aquatic species. As I began to spend time with her, I developed a real kinship. As I put aside my own nature narcissism, I discovered a relationship, a connection, far richer than I had ever imagined. It was extraordinary. Many years ago, at my wedding, the pastor gave a short talk on the nature of love. He said, love is much more than a feeling. Love is a decision. Love is a decision. Each day, he said, when you wake up next to your spouse, you make a decision to actively love that person by considering their needs as well as your own. That was a real challenge for me as a young bride. And I have to admit, even after decades of marriage, it can still be hard. Imagine a world in which you woke up every morning and decided to actively love nature by considering her needs. To restore nature to health, we each need to move beyond just making small gestures like rejecting plastic straws, to instead making a deep and lasting change in how we make day-to-day decisions, small and large. In actively loving nature, we choose cars and homes that use the least amount of energy to minimize their impact on a severely warming climate. We choose food that's not only good for us, but healthy for Earth by decreasing meat consumption, reducing plastic packaging, and minimizing waste. And when we or our communities landscape our grounds, we choose trees and plants that are native to our area, that provide more nourishment and better shelter to birds and insects and our local wildlife. And when we spend or invest our money, we consume less, avoid harmful products, and ensure that our investments do not support projects that harm nature. This is what actively loving nature looks like. To put aside our nature narcissism and routinely, day by day, consider her needs. When you wake up tomorrow morning, what would it look like if you were to choose to love nature as intentionally as you love your family and friends? And just as we do with our family and friends, with nature, we move beyond I love you to actions that support and nurture her.